So in verse 5, we've seen that Jesus asked Philip not how, he asked him where are we to buy bread. Now, I mean, look around, there's not a where. Here, look around, there is a where, right? In that case, there's not a where. So Jesus wasn't focusing in that verse on the how much and whatever, but on the where. Verse 6, he said this to test him, for he himself knew what he would do. So in other words here, what do we get? Is that Jesus knew what he was going. This is a test for, okay? Like Jesus was tested actually, not tempted by the devil, but tested by the devil, because the Spirit led him into the desert, right? So he is testing Philip as well. Now, so Philip ultimately not only Philip, but all of them can learn a lesson from this. But now in this case specifically, because he's asking Philip. Okay, but Jesus knew what he's going to do. Okay. Again, most likely now in this case, this would have been a question of the Holy Spirit informing him what's going to happen, right? Otherwise he could not have known. This is not psychology where you can look at the person and kind of know for that reason. Verse 7, Philip answered him, 200 denarii worth of bread would not be enough for each of them to get a little. So 200 denarii, now a denarii, a payment for a worker in a day, that would not be enough. So a person needs to work, one person 200 days to just get to buy bread for all these people, and even then they're only going to get a little slice of bread. I remember as well there in St. Petersburg in the certain sense, one of my favorite museums there is free at Plošťad Pobjedy, for commemorating the war, the famine during the Great Patriotic War, as it's called in Russia. And they show this little pieces of bread lying there, and this is all people got to eat. And even then they would add a lot of dirt to the bread so as to soil, basically, so that to just kind of get something more into the people, right? And so it's understandably that a couple of 100,000 people, 600,000 people died of hunger because this is not enough. So this is kind of a bit like this going on. So like, even if we could add 200 denarii, which we don't have, where would we be able to, even then, we will only be able to buy a little. Now the interesting thing as well is just remember, Jesus didn't ask them, how much it's going to cost. Jesus asked, where are we going to get this bread? And Philip's answer was not where, oh Jesus, but see, we are on the mountain there. I was like, no place, even if you wanted, there's no place to buy it, right? He was thinking finances. He's like Judas here, right? Like thinking money. But even if you had money, it's not like, if you have all the money in the world, okay, and you are in the middle of the Sahara, that money is not going to take away your thirst, right? Water is what you need there. So in other words, in certain cases, money is not going to solve your problem. In lots of cases, money is not going to solve you. Yes, money makes the world go round kind of idea. But there are certain places where, if you are dying of the cold, all that money is good for is to make a fire of it, to at least get a little bit of warmth in you. Okay? So he was looking at that. Jesus was looking more at the where. Okay? So to show that he's not thinking of, well, I'm not thinking of the money here. I'm thinking of the where you're going to get this bread from. Now I know people who don't believe in miracles. They say this miracle Jesus did how? The day before or days before, they bought all this bread, from the answer of Philip here, you would know that this is nonsense, right? Because here clearly Philip says that even if we had all this money, it's only going to be little, and we don't have that money. Okay, so there was no way that Jesus the day before could use other disciples to go around. Okay, maybe we get a water shower now behind us again. Anyhow, so there was no way that Jesus the day before, without the knowledge of the disciples, could in some other way get enough money without them knowing, and Judas especially knowing, to go and buy bread to come and hide in a cave. I mean, people who say that, liberal Bible scholars saying these kinds of nonsense, that is nonsense. I mean, it's a lot easier to believe that Jesus did this miracle in the sense that he took a little bit of bread and made it a lot, than to think that he could go behind the backs of these disciples, Judas included, who was so strict on money, and some other way find money and then go and buy bread and eat it in caves in the back. I mean, yeah, right. Now the other thing they say is that when this little boy shared his bread, then everybody felt so good about it that they started sharing before they had the bread. They just want to share. Okay, but again, from what what Philip here said is not, I mean, they went around and they could only find this one little boy with bread. If there were others with bread, they could say, oh, you know, we found others with bread as well. There's that person, there's that person, there's that person, right? He didn't say there's just one person willing to share. He just said there's just one boy with food here. Okay? It is a question why the others didn't have food. Well, they were with Jesus a while already, most likely, so they finished the food. They didn't plan to stay that long, things went longer on. Okay, it happens. Okay, so the simplest solution for this is that, you know, ultimately this is going to be a miracle. Okay, yeah, I just see now the tower over there, it's the lights going on and off is actually kind of with this music. I don't know if it's in synchronized kind of, but maybe you can just move it, like show the other one of the other high tall buildings here, but it's up on the hill, so it looks a lot taller. But yeah, now with the music started, it's playing as well. Okay, so let's continue. So I believe this is a true miracle ultimately that Jesus is going to do here. Verse 8, one of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, said to him, verse 9, there's a boy here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish, but what are they for so many? So, I mean, 200 denarii worth of money, of bread, is not going to be able to give them even a bite, basically. So here, this is one boy with 5 loaves and 2 fish, right? As well as it's not the expensive kind of bread, okay? So how is that even? I mean, if you think that is not going to be nearly enough, then, I mean, it's like saying, okay, here is a ton of bread. That's not going to be enough. But I mean, I have this one slice, one bread. That, yeah, right. That's even more stupid. Okay, it's nothing. But you know, that's kind of what we have. I was like, we're nothing else here. Okay, Jesus said, verse 10. Jesus said, "Have the people sit down." Now there was much grass in the place, so the men sat down, about 5,000 in number. Okay, so Jesus' answer to them was that, oh, okay, yeah, this is impossible, but don't worry, I have this bread, or don't worry, when I start breaking this, then the others will start sharing. No, okay, so just let the people sit down. There was much grass, so it's that time of the year after the rain, we know in that area, grass, nice on the hills, kind of mountains like they call here. And yeah, much grass, like much water there. The much water, I think I was well looking because of the much grass, was just as well to point the time of the year out, rather than the fact, though, how that it was enough water so that everyone could be dunked in the water. It was pointing out the time. I didn't mention it on that lesson, but you see this exact same thing here. Much grass, like much water there. So it points as well to the time of the year when this sign is being done. I think that is more what they're getting at than to show that, oh, there was like, because if it's the same logic followed there than here, right, then to say, oh, much water, that is because it shows towards that you need a lot of water to baptize people. But in other cases, they don't show that, okay? And then here, what do you need? Much grass for people to sit down so they can be fed? No, okay? In this case, clearly it's a sign of the time of the year because Passover is nearby. In that case as well, it was a sign as well of the time of the year. Okay, so to just take something away from those who believe that proves that you need to be dumped into water to be baptized. No, that's not what it proves.